You're thinking about exploring Kumaon,
Yeah.
right? Nainital, Almora, those big names usually pop up first. But there's this place, Haldwani, that you often just, well, drive through.
Yeah, exactly.
So this deep dive is for anyone who's done that. We're not just glancing at it today. We're really diving into Haldwani, the so-called gateway to Kumaon, to figure out why it's actually much more than a quick pit stop.
Absolutely. If you genuinely want to understand the Kumaon region, you really need to look closely at Haldwani.
Right.
We've got some really interesting material here that gets beneath the surface. We're talking history, its unique geography, the culture, and, those little bits of charm people often miss.
Okay.
Our aim is really to give you a proper feel for what makes Haldwani, well, Haldwani.
Okay, so gateway to Kumaon, that's the tag you always hear. It's in the Nainital district, seen as the entrance. But the stuff we looked at suggests that label kind of undersells it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where do we even start unpacking the real story here?
Well, maybe start with the basics, like its name. It's quite revealing, actually.
All right.
Haldwani apparently comes from the haldu tree, Adina cordifolia, I think. It used to be super common in the area.
Huh. So it links it straight back to its natural environment, even before it was a town.
Exactly. It hints at a history that goes way back, long before its current role.
So it wasn't always this, busy transit town. The sources mention development kicking off in the early 19th century. What drove that?
Location, location, location. It's right at that meeting point, isn't it, where the hills meet the plains?
Ah, okay.
So naturally, it just became a perfect spot for trade. Think about it. Stuff flowing from the farm on the plains up into the hills and resources coming back down.
Makes sense.
And then when the British came along, they saw that strategic value. They developed it further, using it as a key transit and supply point for places like Nainital and Almora.
You can almost picture the bullock carts and supplies moving through.
Totally. Just imagine the activity of those early supply lines forming right there.
And then, this must have been huge, the railway line, connecting Cathedral down to the plains. That changed things, surely.
Oh, completely transformative. Yeah. It wasn't just about making travel easier.
Right.
It massively boosted Haldwani's role as a trade center. Suddenly, goods and people could move so much faster, more efficiently.
Wow.
That connectivity really fueled its growth, not just as a stopover, but as a place people actually lived and worked. It drew in more residents, more businesses.
Becoming this sort of commercial heart for Lower Kumaon.
Exactly that. And an educational one, too, eventually.
You can still kind of feel that history now, can't you? It's not all just new buildings and traffic.
No, not at all. The articles point out these little echoes of the past, the old railway bungalows, post offices that must have seen so much.
Generations of mail.
Right, and those traditional markets still buzzing. They're not just old buildings. They're like living links to how Haldwani came to be.
Okay, shifting from the timeline a bit, let's talk landscape. The sources really stress this unique position plains hitting mountains. Paint us a picture.
Okay, so imagine the flat plains stretching out, quite open. Then, almost suddenly, the ground starts rising. You're right at the base of the Shivalik Range.
The foothills.
The very foothills. And the Gala River flows nearby, kind of marking that transition zone. It's where openness gives way to the hills starting, a real boundary.
That interface zone. And the Gala River, it seems important not just as a line on the map.
Definitely. It's described as a vital resource, for water, agriculture, local ecosystems. And visually, it adds something else to the landscape, doesn't it? A natural counterpoint to the town. And people use it, too, for recreation, walks, connecting with nature right there.
So how does that specific geography affect the climate and just the general vibe of the place?
Well, that position means you get a pretty nice climate, actually. The articles mention warm summers. Sure, it's near the plains.
Right.
But the winters are generally mild, not the biting cold you get higher up.
Okay, so not extreme.
No. And that balance makes Haldwani attractive for people to live, not just pass through. It's comfortable year-round, really.
It sounds like the land itself is a big part of its character. Now let's talk people and culture. The sources call it a real melting pot.
Yeah, that really comes through. I mean, you have the indigenous Kumaoni people, of course.
Yeah.
But Haldwani's also drawn in communities from Yuki next door, from Punjab, Garhwal, even people with Nepali roots.
So a real mix.
A proper mix. And you see that diversity in the languages spoken, the different foods you can find, the festivals they celebrate together. It creates this vibrant cultural tapestry.
You can just imagine how rich that blend is. The sources even mention Kumoni culture specifically, like folk songs.
Yeah, they mentioned Bedu Paco Baramasa. That's a classic. These songs are like woven into the fabric of Kuman.
Telling stories.
Exactly. Stories of the lands, the people, traditions, they keep that heritage alive. And the descriptions always mention the people being warm, hospitable.
Rooted but open.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Deeply connected to customs, but also progressive, open to new things.
It paints a picture of a strong community. I mentioned family ties, that community spirit.
Yes, definitely. Strong family structures, maybe extended families living close by. That close-knit feel comes up a lot.
Uh-huh.
And there's also this kind of underlying spiritual inclination that's just part of daily life. It's this mixed, diverse background, strong local traditions that gives Haldwani its unique feel.
Okay, so if we're planning a visit, not just changing trains, what are some actual places in or around Haldwani worth seeing? Sounds like there's some hidden spots.
Yeah, absolutely. The sources point out a few good ones. The Gala Barrage, for instance.
The river again?
Yep. It's described as a peaceful spot, good for a walk or a picnic. Apparently quite dramatic in the monsoon, too. It's a way to experience that nature right nearby.
And there's a spiritual place nearby, too. Hedikan Ashram.
Correct. Just a short drive out. It's mentioned as a pretty important spiritual center. People come from all over, drawn by Haida Babaji's teachings and just the peaceful vibe.
Okay. And a place for remembrance, too. The Martyrs Memorial.
Yes, a significant spot honoring local soldiers, a place for reflection and for the community to pay respects.
Important. And for getting a taste of local life, those markets. Mangal Padav, Subhash Nagar.
Definitely recommended in the articles. If you want the real deal, that's where to go.
What kind of stuff can you find?
Oh, local textiles, spices, those homemade sweets they talk about. It's described as a proper sensory experience, a real slice of everyday Haldwani life.
Sounds great.
And of course, we can't forget its closeness to Kathbegam. That's still key for anyone heading higher up into the hills. It is the gateway station.
Okay, all this talk of places. Now I'm thinking food. What should we eat in Haldwani? What are the highlights?
Oh, the sources make the food scene sound really tempting, very diverse.
Yeah. Like,
Well, they suggest starting the day with a local classic, aloo kagutke, spiced potatoes, basically, served with puri and this vibrant coriander chutney.
That's good.
And if you're there in spring, you might find burrange juice. It's made from rhododendron flowers.
Wow, that's unique. And I like that mention of an old British touch in some bakeries.
Yeah, it's a nice little detail, isn't it? Places like Megdoot, Sahu Bakery, probably serving up classics, a little taste of history with your cake.
Definitely. What about quicker bites? Street food?
Sounds lively. Chat, momos, jalebi fafta, which is a great combo, and obviously lots and lots of chai.
Can't go wrong with chai. But we need to try the traditional Kumaoni stuff too, right? What are the must-tries?
Absolutely. The articles flag a few specifically. Batki churkani, that's a rich curry made with black soybeans.
Okay.
And chainsu, which is made with spiced lentils, sounds really flavorful. And for something different, gahatki paratha flatbreads using horse gram.
Horse gram. Interesting. These sound really authentic.
Yeah, real flavors of the region tied to the local agriculture and traditions.
And then, balma pie. It sounds like the iconic sweet.
It really does. Described as this unique, fudge-like sweet, kind of chocolate-colored, and it's coated in these tiny white sugar balls. Looks quite distinctive. They pretty much say it's the Kumaoni sweet you have to try in Haldwani.
Okay, noted. Definitely trying that. So clearly the food scene is rich. How does the city celebrate? What about festivals?
Well, the sources stress how enthusiastically they celebrate the big national festivals, Diwali, Holi, Eid, Christmas. Shows that diverse, inclusive spirit again.
Right.
But what's really special are the local fairs, the melas. They really showcase the Kumaoni culture.
Like the Kumama Mahotsav. What's that like?
That sounds fantastic. It's described as this big showcase, folk dances, regional music, the kind that really captures the feel of the hills, plus local handicrafts. A great way to just immerse yourself.
Sounds vibrant. And the Gala Mahotsav,
Yeah.
celebrating the river itself.
Yeah, exactly. A festival focused specifically on the Gala River, recognizing how important it is.
How do they celebrate it?
With food stalls, local treats, traditional games, cultural shows, it really highlights that connection between the people and their environment. It sounds lovely.
It does. Okay, moving beyond culture and food, let's touch on the more practical side. Education, economy, lifestyle.
Right. Haldwani is definitely a big educational hub for the area. The articles mention specific places like MB Government PG College and Uttarakhand Open University.
Right.
Plus, lots of coaching centers. It draws students from all over the hills who want to study further.
So a center for learning, too,
Yeah.
and economically.
Mm.
What keeps the city running?
It's pretty diverse. Trade is still huge, obviously, given the location. Transport is massive, too.
Makes sense, being a distribution point.
Exactly. It's a key point for goods going into Kumaon. So the transport industry is a big employer. Plus, real estate and education itself contribute significantly to the economy.
And the general lifestyle. What's the feel of living there?
The sources paint a picture of balance, really. You've got modern conveniences, malls, gyms, co-working spaces, cinemas.
The usual stuff.
Yeah. But you also have the traditional side, the sound of temple bells, the busy local bazaars, that strong community feel.
So not quite big city pace, but not isolated either.
Exactly. A comfortable mix, maybe. It offers amenities, but still holds on to its traditional character.
Sounds quite livable.
Mm.
We always like to mention people who've made a mark. Any notable names from Haldwani?
Well, the sources don't list like global superstars necessarily,
Right.
but they do emphasize that Haldwani has produced talented people in lots of different fields: politics, social work, education, sports, arts.
All right.
And the key point they make is that many successful people with roots there stay connected. They often come back and contribute to the community.
That says a lot about the place, doesn't it? That pull.
It really does. Speaks volumes about those community ties.
Okay, so for listeners who are now thinking, maybe I should stop in Haldwani, let's get practical. Best time to visit. How to get there.
Right, travel tips. Weather-wise, the article suggests October to March is generally best. Pleasant, cool, clear.
Okay, avoids the extremes.
Pretty much. April to June is decent too, especially if you're using it as a base before heading higher up where it'll be cooler.
And avoid the monsoon.
Yeah, probably best to skip July and August. Heavy rains can cause disruptions.
Good tip. And getting there. Transport options.
It's well connected. For trains, Kathgodam station is super close, like only 4 kilometers away. That's a major railhead for Kumaon.
Convenient.
Very. By road, good bus services connect it to Delhi, Bareilly, other main cities, plus taxis and private cars, obviously.
And flying.
Pantnagar Airport is the closest, about an hour's drive. It has domestic flights, so pretty accessible overall.
Any final crucial travel advice?
Just one practical thing the sources mention: pack layers.
Ah, the classic mountain advice.
Exactly. Because you're at the foothills, daytime might feel warm, but evenings can get surprisingly chilly. So having layers just makes sense for comfort.
Good call. So wrapping up this deep dive, it's really clear Haldwani is way more than just a place you pass through.
Oh,
It
definitely.
has its own identity, its own story.
Absolutely. What we've looked at really shows its heart, its heritage, that charm that often gets missed. It's a city shaped by its unique spot on the map, its mixed population, its history. It all gives it a distinct character.
Yeah, I can almost picture it now, watching the sun go down over the Gala, trying some of that local food, chatting with people. It makes you want to actually, stop and explore.
Exactly. So maybe next time you're heading towards Kumaon, consider actually pausing in Haldwani. Don't just rush through.
Take some time.
Yeah. Venture off the main road, let yourself be surprised. You might find that the real essence of a place isn't just in the famous spots.
But in these overlooked gateways,
Precisely. In the stories and character of places like Haldwani.
that's a really great thought to end on.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other gateway towns or cities out there have these rich, untold stories just waiting? Gives you a whole new way to think about travel.
It does indeed.
Well, thanks for diving deep into Haldwani with me today. Until our next exploration, everyone, keep that curiosity going.